Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at one of William Fevre's 2021 Chablis, and this is the Grand Cru Chablis. So, in fact, the Grand Cru only make up about 1% of the wine produced in Chablis. There are 7 named vineyards. To be a Grand Cru, the fruit has to come from one of those vineyards. Yields are kept lower. It tends to be that the wines will be aged perhaps with slightly more oak, perhaps for slightly longer. So in general, the production process is more expensive because of lower yields and longer periods of aging. The sites that form the Grand Cru were some of the original vineyards of the Chablis region. They have the classic soils of Chablis. They have the best soils. They have good, deep Kimmeridgian clay of a limestone subsoil. And that's very good at restricting the water supply to the vine while still giving it sufficient to survive. But also the white soils reflect sunlight back at the grapes in this sort of cooler northern region of France. And again, the Grand Cru have some of the best aspects of the vineyards. Most of them face due south and get the best sunlight. As a producer, William Fevre are really quite oriented towards the production of premium wines. Of the 76 hectares of Chablis vineyards that they own, 15 hectares are Grand Cru and a further 16 are Premier Cru, giving them quite a sort of a weighting towards the higher appellations there. The Fevre family have been residents of the Chablis region for about 250 years, but it wasn't until 1957 that William created the eponymous firm. He built it up, and he built up its reputation, perhaps taking a slightly different course to some other producers. He was using a degree of oak when others were moving away from it more, but the firm's reputation was well established. However, when he retired in 1998, he sold the firm to the champagne company Henriot. And Henriot continued to use most of the practices that Fevre had done, but they owned Bouchard Père, the Gaussian, and so there was a ready supply of older oak. So actually the oak usage was perhaps slightly toned down at that stage. Henriot were the owners of William Fevre when they merged with another group called Artemis, who were the owners of Chateau Latour in Bordeaux. That happened in 2022, and then earlier this year in July, the larger Artemis group, as it became, chose to sell off William Fevre, and the ownership of William Fevre Chablis has moved to the Domaines Barons de Rothschild. So that's the group that owns Chateau Lafite. Clos is the largest of the Grand Cru. It's just a tiny touch over 16 hectares in size. It's towards the south of the Grand Cru hillsides and is between Bruny and Valmure to the northwest of it, and then Blanchot is the Grand Cru to the southeast of it. It's south facing, and the soils constitute probably about 80 centimetres of white clay marl over the compacted limestone subsoil, and this is quite rich in fossilised seashell, denoting the fact that formerly, thousands of years ago, this area had been a seabed. William Fevre owned 4 plots, and I think they're the largest owner of Clos, and they have 4.11 hectares of vines on Clos. The fruit here is hand-picked. For the Grand Crus, the fruit will be picked into shallow cagettes so that it's not being crushed by other fruit being put on top of it. It's taken to the winery. Here it undergoes a gentle pressing with a pneumatic press, quite a short pressing, hour and a half to 2 hours in total. And then that's followed by quite a light settling, because they want to leave sufficient solids in the wine to ensure there are enough nutrients to allow natural alcoholic fermentation and a natural malolactic conversion to go ahead. So they require the yeasts and the bacteria to remain there, and for them to have enough nutrients to feed off. So this slightly cloudy juice is then put into barrel, or at least 60 to 70% of it is put into barrel, the balance going into stainless steel tank. The barrels are French oak barriques, 228 litre in Burgundy, and they have an average age of 6 years, so there's no overt oak flavour going into the wine. The effect on flavour comes from air passing through the staves of the barrel, and also on the temperature at which fermentation takes place, because it's slightly warmer in a barrel where there isn't temperature control. The wine ages for 14 to 15 months. At the end of maturation, all the wine goes into stainless steel tanks just to marry and to ensure the wine harmonises prior to bottling. 2021 was a difficult vintage. At the outset there were frosts which caused damage in the vineyards. Of course, the Premier Crus tend to suffer less than other vineyards because they're excellent hillside sites and the frost generally drains away from them. Being a cooler, more humid year, there was quite high disease pressure requiring quite a bit of selection. The resulting wines are actually quite surprisingly good, but they come in a style that is quite sort of minerally, quite pure, with not quite as high alcohol as in some years. They're more angular, more precise, possibly for longer aging, and actually tended to reflect the sites that they came from really well. So let's have a look at the wine and see what we make of it. To comment on the colour first, you have a very pale yellow with greenish hints there. Swirling it, the wine has 13% alcohol. It is clinging to the side of the glass, but there aren't sort of huge viscous tears forming. Let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are a very attractive, very pure, lifted blossom note. There's a lovely sort of delicate peachy fruit coming through there. Well, as I say, these sort of blossom high notes. There's a slight creaminess. The wine had the fine lees left in it as it was aging in barrel, so obviously it's taken some richness out of those. But there's a minerally purity to the aromas here, and a real sort of lovely preciseness to them. That's very attractive to smell. So let's see what we make of it when we taste it. Initially, there's a very pure crispness. Then there is real weight and roundness. This is a medium to full-bodied white wine, and it's rich, it's creamy. There is a sort of a slight toasty note. Now, some of that may be an oak influence, but actually I think most of that is the indigenous fermentation notes, those sort of slightly gunpowdery, gunflinty sort of notes. And then they're backed up by this sort of creamy roundness. And throughout the whole thing, there's a lovely, fresh acidity that's lifting the fruit, and it's giving really good length to that sort of rounded, creamy, delicately peachy note to the wine. It's quite a young wine. I think this will age and it will gain a bit more sort of weight and fatness, but it's got lovely preciseness of its acidity. It's fresh, it's clean, and there's a surprising sort of weight and concentration of fruit there. And I think that's really the sort of thing that you're looking for with a Grand Cru. It has real presence, it has elegance, it has balance. The alcohol is adding a bit of warmth and richness to the mid-palate, but it's not dominating. The freshness, there's really good, crisp, minerally acidity there, but it's sitting behind the fruit and it's just lifting the finish with some slightly lemony mineral notes. The flavour's lasting really quite nicely, and I suspect that this is a wine that over the next 4 or 5 years will open up beautifully and will be a really good Grand Cru Chablis. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you have, do please press the like button. Do share the video with your friends if you think they'd be interested. Do also please leave any comments you have. We'd love to hear what you think about the wines, the tastings we're doing, or anything else related to that. Also, please consider signing up and following us on YouTube. That would be fantastic to have your support. We'd really appreciate that. But most importantly, I do hope you'll manage to find some time to join us for another tasting in the very near future. Thanks again. Bye for now.